Brighton is awake now, alive in horror. Room 629 beneath the bath. Silence. The clock has stopped. Delegates rise in applause. Cameras capture every gesture. The Prime Minister has transformed tragedy into defiance. She does not flinch. She does not break. He sits in a dim room far from Brighton, the hum of a small heater filling the silence. The streets outside are quiet. Rain drizzles against the window pane, tapping like fingers on glass. Patrick Magee leans back in a chair, legs crossed, hands folded loosely in his lap. The city beyond the rain is anonymous. Dark street lamps casting pools of light on wet asphalt, a world unaware of the chaos that has just erupted hundreds of miles away. The telephone rests at his side, silent. Messages have already begun to filter in from his comrades. Congratulatory notes, coded phrases praising the work. A few cautious voices warn him to stay low. Every word carries double meaning, celebration, but also the shadow of vigilance. He sips a lukewarm cup of tea, watching steam curl into the air. The taste is bitter, grounding, familiar. A cigarette burns slowly in an ashtray, smoke curling towards the ceiling. For a moment he lets himself lean back and breathe. The operation went exactly as planned. He did what he set out to do. And yet, a tension threads through him, thin but persistent. He can't shake the image of the fire and debris, the screams he has never heard but imagines vividly. The thought of people caught in the explosion gnaws at the edges of his mind, a flicker of doubt, a shadow of unease. He pushes it down. Rationalizations take over. He was careful, the timing precise, the planning meticulous. Outside, the world moves on. The sea thrashes quietly against the shore, unseen by him. The news will arrive soon enough. Names, numbers, stories of injuries and death, the aftermath of his actions. He will read the headlines when he chooses. For now, he is distant, insulated, in a room that smells of tobacco and wet stone. The congratulations continue, faintly, over encrypted messages, and a small, unsettling part of him feels satisfaction, relief maybe, pride in the technical success of the operation. But mingled with it is the weight of knowing that lives have been lost, injuries inflicted. The tension in his shoulders tightens. He finishes the tea, flicks ash into the tray. The room is silent again. Outside, the drizzle continues. Somewhere in Brighton, life struggles to resume, while he remains distant, a ghost in a city he cannot see, alone with the knowledge that the act is done, irreversible, and that his life is now forever entwined with that night. The Grand Hotel is a shattered shell. Dust hangs thick in the air, coating hair, skin and lungs. The smell of smoke, metal and plaster mixes with something faintly chemical. The lingering ghost of explosives. Alarm bells shriek intermittently, competing with the far-off wail of sirens, the clatter of falling debris and the shouting of terrified survivors. Sussex police arrive first, pushing through the chaos. Paul Parton moves cautiously, eyes scanning the wreckage. A man lies on the ground, supported by others. People cling to balconies, some hanging precariously over edges. Water pours from broken pipes, turning carpets into slick, treacherous rivers. Everywhere, human bodies and rubble intertwine in a surreal, nightmarish tableau. Fire engines scream up the seafront, their lights cutting through the haze. Fred Bishop, station officer, orders more engines and every ambulance that can be spared. Regulations say they should wait, keep their distance, maintain radio silence. But Bishop's instincts override procedure. They enter the hotel. Each room, each hallway, is a gauntlet of fallen furniture, shattered glass, and the ever-present dust that burns the throat and eyes. Through the night they tunnel, pry, and lift debris. Muriel McLean is found with her leg mangled. Medics stabilise her, though she will succumb to her injuries a month later. Norman and Margaret Tebbit are discovered, buried together 12 feet above the reception. Norman holds his wife's hand, whispers to her, guides her through the haze of pain. Margaret will survive, but forever changed, paralysed from the neck down. Cameras capture Norman being carried from the wreckage in his pyjamas at 6:53 a.m, an image that will define the disaster in living memory. Other cabinet members and staff are led to safety, evacuated to the police station, their faces pale, clothes ruined, their minds replaying the terror they have just escaped. As daylight breaks over Brighton, emergency crews continue their methodical work. Firefighters pry open stairwells, search rubble-strewn floors. Ambulances thread through the streets, sirens blending with the natural rhythm of the Channel waves. 33 people will be treated in hospital, suffering broken bones, lacerations, crush injuries. A handful of deaths, 5 in total, mark the human cost of the morning. John Wakeham, one of the last to be extricated, had fallen from the 4th floor into the foyer below, caught under timber and debris. Meanwhile, Patrick Magee is far away in Cork, staying with sympathisers. At 6 o'clock, he hears the news. Relief washes over him. The device worked. The IRA Army Council issues its statement. 50 words of justification, of threat, of ideology. By 8 a.m, life must resume. The conference attendees, many stripped of their clothes in the wreckage, are shepherded into taxis and a coach to a local Marks and Spencer, opened early just for them. New clothes, new composure. The Conservative Party conference will restart at 9:30 a.m. The Prime Minister greeted by a standing ovation, a 2-minute silence, and the knowledge that democracy has endured. The investigation is just beginning. Evidence will be collected, questions asked. Police and journalists will comb through debris, piecing together the clues that will eventually point to Magee. But in these first hours the work is simple. Save lives, stabilise the wounded, and confront the immediate, incomprehensible horror. The human stories of courage, survival and loss are written here in the rubble, in the hands of first responders, and in the quiet determination of those who refuse to yield. Patrick Magee moves like a ghost through the streets of Dublin and London. Each step measured, each glance over his shoulder a necessity. Surveillance is constant though invisible. He knows the RUC and Garda are watching his wife, tracking her movements, and through her, tracking him. The knowledge presses on him like a shadow. One misstep, one overlooked tale, and his freedom, everything, could vanish. The streets are wet from rain. Fog curls around lampposts, and the early morning light makes every alleyway a potential trap. In Ballymun, he watches, waits, calculating, counting the days until he can move. The IRA is planning more attacks, a summer campaign across Britain's tourist resorts, and he is eager to be part of it, a mix of pride, duty, and a compulsion he cannot resist. By March he slips past the surveillance, travelling to Britain with a female partner. They rent a flat in Glasgow, their base for the coming months. The city hums around them, oblivious. They are ghosts among the living, shadows moving through crowds, carrying the weight of meticulous planning and long delay timers in small hidden packages. June 15th, Rubens Hotel, London. Magee moves carefully, checking the corridor, the desk, the staff's routines. Room 112 overlooks the Royal Mews. The bedside table must be unscrewed, the bomb placed just so, then reassembled without trace. A long delay timer is set to detonate weeks later. He lingers for a moment, listening to the distant sounds of London. A police whistle, a bus rumbling by, footsteps in the hall, and wonders if anyone could sense the presence of death hidden in plain sight. Days and weeks pass. Magee's movements are precise, rehearsed, cautious. The England Department's flat in Hackney Road is a nerve centre. Maps and schematics spread across tables. A plan for multiple bombs lies neatly and ink and pencil. Cities, hotels, floors, rooms, each a calculated target, each a potential disaster. The thought of capture hovers always at the edge of his mind, a cold, invisible weight. June 22nd. The trap closes. Strathclyde Police, RUC and Special Branch have traced his movements. They shadow him, a silent constellation of eyes and radios. Magee meets Peter Sherry at the train station, unaware of the meticulous observation, unaware that the noose is tightening. Langside, Glasgow. 8 flats, doors knocked simultaneously. Time stretches, every second magnified. Magee expects the landlord, routine, the rent. Instead, he opens the door to armed officers. Surprise, confusion, calculation. None matter now. He is seized, handcuffed, escorted from the flat. Around him, comrades are taken too. MacDonald, Sherry, O'Dwyer, Anderson. The mission, the planning, the summer campaign, all over in an instant. A search uncovers his plans, cities, hotels, rooms, schematics, booby traps. The Rubens Hotel bomb, long delayed, is found and disabled before it can claim lives. Every calculation, every step is exposed to the harsh light of law and order. The trial begins in May 1986. Magee sits in court, expression unreadable. Months of planning, years of obsession, distilled into the sterile walls of a courtroom. Life sentences are pronounced, 8 concurrent with 35 years recommended before parole. Only once does he speak, "Our day will come." The words are small, defiant, but the weight of reality presses around him. The city, the hotel, the victims, everything he touched now echoes in consequences he cannot escape. The air is heavy with quiet as Patrick Magee steps out. Years have passed. The streets of Belfast and Dublin blur past him, familiar yet strange. His mouth is dry, a nervous tick he cannot shake. Every step is measured, every thought weighed. The world has changed. The Good Friday Agreement has shifted the ground beneath politics, beneath old conflicts, beneath him. He knows why he is here. Dublin, November. A quiet meeting room waiting. The journey to this moment has been long, haunted by ghosts, by decisions that cannot be undone. He cannot undo the past. He cannot bring back the lives lost, cannot erase the fact that he killed Sir Anthony Berry, Joe Berry's father, in the Brighton bombing. But he can sit, he can listen, he can try. Joe Berry enters. There is a pause, a shared intake of breath, a recognition of the enormity of what has brought them here. She is calm, poised, yet every glance carries the weight of loss. The man in front of her, Patrick Magee, is the one who planted the bomb that killed her father. The room seems to contract around them, the weight of history pressing in, yet there is a fragile space for conversation, for humanity. They begin to speak, not to justify, not to excuse, to understand. Magee's words are careful, measured, tinged with the tension of his own conscience. Jo listens, her voice steady, empathetic. She asks questions, not to condemn, but to explore. For hours they move through memory and pain, guilt and grief, fear and hope. Outside, Dublin hums along the Liffey, indifferent to the private history unfolding inside. Inside, the air is thick with reconciliation, the impossible made tangible through conversation. Magee's dry mouth loosens slightly. The weight of anxiety lifts just enough for him to see a path forward. Jo Berry's presence, her willingness to meet, her insistence on listening, changes the space between them. They speak of loss, of ideology, of humanity. They speak of the future. And as they talk, the listener senses something extraordinary. The quiet, powerful assertion that even in the wake of unspeakable tragedy, even when one human killed another's father, understanding is possible, that empathy can cross boundaries carved in blood and fear. Joe and Patrick will go on to speak at events together, sharing their story, demonstrating to the world that reconciliation is not easy, not guaranteed, but possible.